Lewis Hamilton didn't save Ferrari by driving faster. He saved them by forcing Maranello to admit something they refused to believe in 2025. That their 7-time world champion wasn't the problem, their decision-making was. And the moment Ferrari finally listened, the SF-26 transformed from an unpredictable machine into a genuine title contender. That's the breakthrough almost everyone missed. 1 year ago, Ferrari looked trapped in a vicious cycle. Lewis Hamilton's blockbuster move had produced more questions than answers. Charles Leclerc was equally frustrated, and the Scuderia failed to win a single Grand Prix throughout 2025. Meanwhile, Mercedes adapted instantly to Formula One's new regulations. Kimi Antonelli built a commanding championship lead, and Red Bull quietly searched for its next technical breakthrough. Ferrari wasn't just losing races, it was losing authority inside the paddock. But there's a catch. What the teams weren't telling us was that Ferrari's biggest weakness wasn't horsepower, downforce, or tyre degradation. It was trust. Hamilton later admitted his development requests often disappeared into the background because poor results weakened his influence. Then, something changed behind closed doors. A political reset, one conversation, one completely different Ferrari. Was that the real turning point in the 2026 title fight? Before we move on, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss out on any of our latest videos. Because what Hamilton accidentally revealed next exposes a Ferrari power shift that could completely reshape the Formula One championship. If you watched only the podium celebrations in Barcelona and Silverstone, you'd think Ferrari simply unlocked extra pace overnight. But Formula One never works like that. Performance is almost always the final chapter of a much longer political story. Remember where Ferrari stood only months earlier. The SF-25 had become notorious for inconsistency. One weekend, it generated promising qualifying speed. The next, it struggled to keep tyre temperatures inside the operating window. Engineers searched for answers in suspension geometry, aerodynamic balance and brake behaviour, while Hamilton repeatedly suggested that the development direction itself needed changing. The outside world mostly blamed the driver. Inside Maranello, however, something far more dangerous was developing. A growing disconnect between the people building the car and the man expected to lead it. Fast forward into 2026, and suddenly the narrative has completely flipped. Hamilton wins in Barcelona. Ferrari unexpectedly secures a stunning 1-3 finish at Silverstone after entering the weekend expecting to fight only for minor points. Hamilton climbs to third in the Drivers' Championship, just 32 points behind Mercedes sensation Kimi Antonelli, while Ferrari begins reducing what once looked like an impossible constructors' deficit. That isn't luck, that's evidence of a system finally beginning to function, and Hamilton would soon reveal exactly what changed. During the British Grand Prix weekend, Hamilton delivered perhaps his most revealing interview since arriving at Ferrari. Most fans focused on the upgrades. The real story was hidden inside one sentence. We are allies rather than foes. Think about those words carefully. Hamilton wasn't describing a technical package. He was describing Ferrari's internal politics. He openly admitted that during the difficult 2025 campaign, poor results meant people naturally stopped listening to him. As he explained, every disappointing weekend weakened confidence in his feedback. In Formula One, influence isn't written into a contract. It's earned through results. And without results, even a 7-time world champion can become just another voice in the meeting room. Rather than creating public conflict, Hamilton chose diplomacy. He rebuilt relationships with senior management, reorganised parts of his own engineering group, improved communication between his side of the garage and the factory in Maranello, and gradually restored trust. That may sound like corporate language. In Formula One, it's competitive performance. because once the engineers truly believe in the driver's feedback, development accelerates dramatically. Simulation programs become more focused. Wind tunnel priorities become clearer. Upgrade timing becomes more aggressive. Ferrari didn't simply repair a relationship. It repaired its decision-making process. Hamilton then revealed something many engineers immediately recognized as enormously significant. He finally received the front suspension characteristics he had requested during the previous season. He also confirmed Ferrari introduced the brake package he had been pushing for after extensive simulator work. To casual fans, brakes sound almost insignificant. They're anything but. A driver's confidence under braking determines how aggressively they attack corner entry, how efficiently they rotate the car through slower sections, and how carefully they preserve tyre temperatures across an entire race stint. A stable braking platform also allows engineers to optimize aerodynamic balance without constantly compensating for unpredictable weight transfer. In other words, Hamilton wasn't asking Ferrari to make the car faster. He was asking Ferrari to make it more predictable. Those are two very different engineering philosophies. Predictability allows a driver to extract performance lap after lap, instead of producing occasional flashes of speed surrounded by inconsistency. That's exactly what Ferrari had been missing throughout 2025. Hamilton also revealed another subtle but important detail. He reshaped parts of his personal engineering structure to improve communication with the wider Ferrari operation. That might sound like a small administrative change, but Formula One championships are often decided by tiny improvements in information flow. When data travels faster than politics, development usually follows. Suddenly, Hamilton was no longer adapting himself to Ferrari. Ferrari had started adapting itself to Hamilton. And that single reversal may prove to be the most important technical decision Maranello has made since the introduction of the all-new 2026 regulations. Hamilton wasn't finished revealing Ferrari's transformation. He also admitted that one question kept frustrating him throughout 2025. Where's the innovation? For a team that has built more Formula One legends than anyone else, Ferrari had become strangely reactive. Instead of forcing rivals to copy them, they were constantly responding to everyone else's ideas. That isn't how championship dynasties are built. This season, Hamilton says that mentality has changed. Every race weekend, Ferrari arrives with new components. Not revolutionary upgrades worth half a second, but carefully targeted improvements that collectively shift the performance window. That's exactly how modern Formula One works under the budget cap. Massive redesigns are almost impossible. Championships are won through relentless marginal gains. Hamilton even pointed to examples. Ferrari's rear-wing philosophy attracted attention across the paddock, while its innovative exhaust solution quickly appeared on rival development programs. In Formula One, imitation is the greatest compliment. Teams don't spend millions copying slow cars. Politically, that changes everything. When competitors begin studying your technical package instead of the other way around, confidence inside the factory explodes. Engineers become bolder. Designers gain influence. Drivers trust the direction. Momentum builds. It's remarkably similar to Mercedes during the hybrid era, when rivals spent years trying to understand their power unit, or Red Bull during Adrian Newey's blown diffuser dominance. Ferrari suddenly isn't chasing the future anymore. It's helping create it. Despite Ferrari's resurgence, Hamilton refuses to pretend the job is finished. His most revealing comment came wrapped inside a joke. Other than me going into Mercedes' garage and undoing the bolts, everyone laughed. Then Hamilton became deadly serious. He described Mercedes as operating in complete synergy, praising not just its speed, but the efficiency behind every decision. That's an important distinction because championships aren't won solely by producing the fastest car. They're won by consistently extracting maximum performance every single weekend. Mercedes has done exactly that throughout most of 2026. Yes, Kimi Antonelli suffered an electrical failure in Barcelona. Yes, a wheel shield issue cost him what looked like victory at Silverstone. Those reliability setbacks allowed Hamilton and George Russell to recover valuable championship points. But remove those incidents, and Mercedes would still possess an even larger advantage. Hamilton understands that. That's why Ferrari isn't chasing isolated victories anymore. It's chasing operational perfection. Meanwhile, Antonelli remains the benchmark. The rookie who stormed into Formula One with 5 consecutive victories after Monaco has already shown the composure of a seasoned champion. Mercedes isn't relying on luck. It's relying on an incredibly efficient machine, both mechanical and organisational. And Ferrari knows catching that level of consistency is significantly harder than producing one brilliant upgrade. As if Mercedes weren't enough, Hamilton delivered another warning that many fans overlooked. Red Bull is back. Specifically, Hamilton highlighted Austria, where Red Bull introduced a substantial upgrade package that immediately improved performance, whether through revised aerodynamic efficiency, better floor stability, or improved balance across medium-speed corners. The RB22 suddenly looked far more competitive. Hamilton didn't hesitate. Max is going to be a big contender. That sentence carries enormous weight. If Red Bull genuinely solved its development problems, Ferrari's championship equation becomes dramatically more complicated. Instead of attacking one dominant rival, Hamilton could find himself trapped between Mercedes' consistency and Verstappen's relentless racecraft. History tells us exactly how dangerous that situation becomes. Think back to 2010, when Ferrari, Red Bull and McLaren constantly stole points from one another. Every strategic mistake became twice as expensive because multiple title contenders were waiting to capitalize. The same pattern is beginning to emerge again. Mercedes still controls the championship. Ferrari is gathering momentum. Red Bull has rediscovered belief. And every point from this moment forward could decide the destiny of the 2026 season. Hamilton isn't just fighting faster cars anymore. He's fighting an increasingly crowded battlefield. After Ferrari's breakthrough, many expected emotional headlines inside Maranello. Fred Vasseur had other ideas. Instead of declaring Ferrari back, the team principal almost dismissed the excitement altogether. Nothing changed today compared to last week. That sounds surprisingly cold after a race-winning performance. But Vasseur was sending a political message, not to the media, but to everyone inside Ferrari. Don't believe your own headlines. He explained that the mechanics in the garage, the engineers back in Maranello, Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, had shown exactly the same commitment before the victory as they had during the difficult weekends. The only difference was the final result. That philosophy separates contenders from champions. Winning teams don't panic after defeat. They also don't become overconfident after victory. Vasseur insisted Ferrari's resurgence wasn't the product of one magical upgrade or one perfect race weekend. It was the outcome of months of collaboration, learning how Hamilton works, understanding Leclerc's feedback, refining engineering processes, and improving countless tiny details that never appear on television broadcasts. In Formula One, details create momentum. Momentum creates championships, and Vasseur knows momentum disappears the moment emotion replaces discipline. That's why his calm reaction may have been even more important than Ferrari's pace. It showed a team thinking long-term rather than chasing headlines. Perhaps the most revealing praise didn't concern suspension, aerodynamics, or brakes. It concerned Hamilton himself. When asked about the Briton's mental strength after such a difficult first season with Ferrari, Vasseur immediately rejected any personal credit. "I have zero merit on this. It's more Lewis himself." That answer says everything. According to Vasseur, regardless of whether Hamilton endured a disastrous weekend or a strong result, his routine never changed. He returned to the factory on Tuesday morning. He reset mentally. He analysed the data, then he went back to work. No excuses, no public blame, no political games. That consistency became a powerful example inside Maranello. Because drivers don't just influence lap times, they influence culture. Hamilton's relentless commitment gradually built credibility with engineers who initially questioned his direction. Every simulator session, every debrief, every technical discussion reinforced the same message. This wasn't a superstar demanding special treatment. This was a champion rebuilding Ferrari from the inside. It's impossible not to see echoes of Michael Schumacher's early Ferrari years. Schumacher didn't transform Ferrari through raw speed alone. He transformed its working culture, creating an environment where engineers, mechanics, and drivers operated with absolute trust. Hamilton appears to be attempting something remarkably similar. The difference is that he's doing it under the relentless pressure of modern Formula One, where every disappointing weekend immediately becomes a global headline. And now comes the biggest examination yet, Spa-Francorchamps. A circuit that rarely forgives weaknesses and never rewards false confidence. If Silverstone proved Ferrari could win unexpectedly, Spa-Francorchamps will answer a far more important question. Can they do it again? On paper, the Belgian Grand Prix shouldn't naturally favour the SF-26. Spa rewards efficient aerodynamics, strong straight-line speed, stable high-speed balance through Eau Rouge and Radiant, and supreme confidence under heavy braking into Les Combes. Traditionally, those characteristics have suited Mercedes extremely well, while Red Bull's low-drag philosophy also becomes a major weapon across the Kemmel Straight. That's exactly why Hamilton isn't making bold predictions. He understands that Ferrari's biggest enemy isn't outright pace, it's consistency. The Scuderia surprised even itself at Silverstone after arriving with modest expectations. But repeating that performance on one of Formula One's most demanding circuits would prove the Barcelona and Silverstone results weren't isolated flashes of brilliance. Weather could become another decisive factor. Spa is famous for producing sunshine in one sector, heavy rain in another, and complete strategic chaos within a single lap. Under those conditions, communication between driver, engineers, and strategists becomes just as important as aerodynamic efficiency. And suddenly, Hamilton's earlier comments about collaboration become even more significant. A team that trusts each other reacts faster. A team divided hesitates. Championships are often decided by fractions of a second. Sometimes they're decided by one radio call. With 13 races still remaining, Ferrari doesn't need to dominate the second half of the season. It simply needs to keep taking points away from Mercedes whenever opportunities appear, while preventing Verstappen and Red Bull from building their own momentum. Because once three elite teams begin trading victories, every weekend becomes a championship final. Cast your mind back to Monaco. Kimi Antonelli had just secured his 5th consecutive victory. Mercedes looked almost untouchable under Formula One's new regulations. Ferrari hadn't won. Hamilton's move to Maranello was already being labelled by some critics as the final mistake of an extraordinary career. Fast forward only a handful of races. Hamilton has won in Barcelona. Ferrari shocked the paddock with a 1-3 finish at Silverstone. The 7-time world champion now sits 3rd in the Drivers' Championship, just 32 points behind Antonelli, while George Russell remains firmly in the fight as well. Mercedes still leads the Constructors' Championship, but its once comfortable advantage has begun to shrink as reliability problems and Ferrari's relentless development start reshaping the competitive order. More importantly, the political balance inside Ferrari has completely changed. Hamilton is no longer fighting to be heard. He's helping define the direction of the SF-26. The upgrades he requested are reaching the circuit. The engineering structure around him has evolved. trust now exists where frustration once dominated. That's why his final message carries so much weight. Ferrari doesn't need a miracle upgrade. It needs to remain calm, keep believing, and extract every possible fraction of performance from every race weekend. So here's the question every Formula One fan should be asking. Has Ferrari finally built the championship-winning partnership Hamilton demanded? Or will Mercedes and Red Bull crush this comeback before it truly begins? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dive F1 analysis.